Hello and welcome! My name is Ahira and this is my guide series for Europa Universalis 4. Today we are gonna talk about institutions. So I have jumped here to Revolutionary France way at the end of the game because now we have all of the institutions present. So what are institutions, you're probably asking? Well, for as long as anyone can remember, the system for technology in EU4 has been pretty static. You got a technology group based on where you started out, and along with that technology group you got your units and a tech penalty. Based on how far you were away from Europe, the tech penalty got bigger and bigger, and the tech penalty was very simply applied so that every time you took a tech, you had to pay the tech penalty as well as the normal cost. Pretty simple system, but very inflexible. So in the 1.18 patch, the Prussia patch that has been recently released, they revamped the system into the institution system. So now all you get from your tech group is your soldiers, your soldier types, while your tech penalty comes from the institution system. Basically the way it works is for every institution you don't have, there will be a ticking score every year, and every single of the institution will take up to 50%. So in theory, if you live your whole life in EU4 without embracing a single institution, you'll end up with a whopping 350% tech penalty. So you'll basically be in the Stone Age still. If you don't want that to happen, there's a lot of things now that you can do. In the old game, the only thing you could do to get better tech penalties was to westernize, that is, get close to a Western nation and go through a grueling, heart-breaking experience, or you could take either Wien or Prague if you are close to Europe and kind of cheat a little bit that way. But that's been done away with. Now we have the institution system. From the start of the game, you have feudalism. Feudalism is present in every country that are non-tribal. So that's all of Europe, most of Asia except for the hordes. Africa, it's most of the north coast as well as a little bit of the countries inside. And as far as I know, no feudalism present in the New World at the start of the game. If you have a institution embraced, then other than just not getting the tech penalty, you also get a bonus. For feudalism, it is an extra leader. So basically what they have done is given everyone in the Western world, or in the feudalized world from the start of the game, a extra free leader, which is pretty nice. So what about the rest of the institutions, you might ask? Well, they come at 50-year intervals starting in 1450. And they all spread with in different ways from one point. So all of them have a base way of spreading that's present no matter which institution you're talking about. And these are called spread modifiers. You can see them if you hover over a province here. It says spread percentage. And they are modified by a number of things. As you can see here, luck is one of them, so AI nations will have a little bit easier time getting them than you will. But for you, it will be being at peace, which gives 10%. So if you are trying to get that institution, maybe don't go to war. Then there's stability. You get 5% for each positive stability you have. Then there is being a state, so your states will grow with the institutions faster than your territories. Then there is being looted. If your province has been looted, it will go up to a minus 33% based on how much it's been looted. So again, being at war or being near the Barbar states is probably bad for the spreading. Then scorched earths also give a minus 50%, just basically do not spread here, it's scorched earth. And finally, if you are trading in coffee, you get a 5%. So all in all, if you are keeping along, the maximum spread you can get is 40% bonus, and that's if you are at peace, have full stability, is a state, and are trading in coffee. Then on top of that, each of the different institutions have individual ways of spreading, and we can look at them here. For feudalism, it's pretty basic. You have to be close to someone who has feudalism. So at the start of the game, of course, most nations start with it, and if you don't have it, then it's because you are tribal. And if you're tribal, then you're gonna have a hard time getting it. It will only spread to your provinces very slowly if you have a friend across the border. That is, if you have a friendly, I think you just have to have a modifier, a diplo modifier of F25 or something like that. But anyway, if you have a neighbor who is friendly to you, then it will spread with 0.5% per year. If you have a friend who's not, or a neighbor who is not friendly, then it's spread by 0.1% per year. And if you get to be non-tribal, you get a further 0.1%. And if you get your noble estate not only to be present but also loyal, it will give a further modifier of 0.5%. So basically, feudalism starts out pretty much everywhere, but then spreads very, very, very slowly into the countries that are not feudal from the start. But then in 1450 something happens. The Renaissance starts out. As you can see here, it starts down in Italy, and it's basically just, it starts somewhere in Italy in a province that has 20 or more development. Of course, it also has to have had feudalism, but since the Italian nations can't start without, at least in a non-modded game, that's pretty not well, self-explanatory. When you embrace the Renaissance, you get 5% discount on build cost and a 5% development discount. After it spawns, it starts spreading all over Europe, and it's probably one of the ones that spread the fastest because the reasons it spread are based on development. So, of course, if you have already embraced it, then it spreads quickly throughout your nation. That's kind of a base for all of them. But if you have a province in Tuscany, in the Venice area, in Flanders, you get a 0.5%. If you are have it present in a friendly neighboring province, you get 0.5%. If it's a non-friendly neighboring province, it's 0.3%. But they're not the big ones. If you have 10 development, then you will give 0.5% a year. If you have 20 development, you will get another 0.5% each year. And then after 1500, they will say after the full tech penalty of the institution has been put on you, you will also get a 0.1% every year if you have 5 development. So that's basically just making the rest of Europe catch up. But just to reiterate, the main reasons it will spread is your development. So if you have 10 or 20 development, it will spread more quickly, and then of course it will spread from neighboring countries. One thing to notice is that the Renaissance spawns somewhere. So of course the country where it spawns gets some bonuses, and I have not tested this out yet, but I believe this is the case for any of the institutions that start out somewhere, is that you get a bonus of 100 of each of the monarch points, as well as 20 prestige, and then each of them give a bonus to the province they're starting out at. So here you can say, I'm not sure if you can see it, but basically the Renaissance gives a minus 5% development cost to that single province. I can't see it anywhere. Anyway, they give bonuses to the country where they start out. The next one to come along is colonialism. Colonialism, once embraced, gives trade power modifier of 10%. And colonialism starts out in a country that is, I think they don't need to be Europe, but they need to be old world, and they need to have a province in the new world. So basically, it will usually start out as being Portugal or Spain. But if you are playing as France or Britain or even someone else, and you manage to get there first, well, then you can be the birthplace of colonialism. One interesting one would be to be Mali, for example, because it's not that long of a distance over there. So if you really hurry up, maybe you can make it. Anyway, when it spawns, you get the usual bonus, and then it starts spreading. Colonialism spreads kind of slowly and mostly on coastal provinces. It has a spread that is based on, let's see here, based on ports. So, of course, there's the usual, if you are in a neighboring province, you get a spread. But then if it's present in, there's the normal spread of 1% per month if you are in a present friendly neighboring province. But then if there's also a port, you give an extra 0.5%. And if you as a country have colonial nations, or I think it's just colonial nations, then you give a further 5%. So in all your ports. So getting those colonial nations is really important for spreading this. Yeah, that's basically it. So not a lot of not a lot of different ways for it to spread. Basically, it spreads to adjacent and ports, and then if you have colonial nations, it spreads even faster to you. Okay, so the next one up is printing press, and printing press comes along in 1550. It starts out in a Reformed, Protestant or German region. In this case, it started out in Frankfurt. Printing press gives a minus 5% cost modifier on stability for those who have embraced it. And it spreads more quickly to capitals with at least 20 development. That is a 0.05% spread. Then if you have the clergy in a province and they are not disloyal. So notice here, earlier on with the feudalism they had to be loyal, but in this case they just have to not be disloyal. So if you have clergy and they are not mad at you, you get a further 0.05%. Again, there's the neighboring spread of 0.2 if they are non-friendly, and 0.5 if they're friendly. And then you get a further bonus based on having Diplotech 15 will give you a 0.75% in your capital. If you are Protestant or Reformed, you get a 2% bonus as well. So getting the printing press will happen faster if you are Protestant or Reformed, and if you have high Diplotech. And of course for capitals with 20 development. So like with Renaissance, it makes sense to make sure your capital is at least 20 development, because it will make it spread to you faster. Of course, it only makes sense if you're far enough away from the tech penalty that you wouldn't have spent those points on the penalty anyway. So you kind of need to do the math, but in general, it's a good idea to have higher development. The next one comes around in 1600, and it is global trade. And global trade spawns in the province with the strongest trade power in the most valued trade node. So in this case, it ended up being in Holland, in the Netherlands, and it gives an extra merchant if you have it embraced. It's spread based on if you have a stock exchange, you get 1%. If you have a center of trade, you get 0.5%. If you have if a neighboring province has it and it's a port, you get 0.5%. If a neighboring province has it and you are not a port, you get 0.25%. If you have a trade depot, you get 0.1%. If it's owned by the Burgoyne state and they are not disloyal, you get 0.05%. And if there's a marketplace, there's a 0.01%. So basically this is all based on trade. If you have marketplace, trade depots, even stock exchanges. You also get a bonus for having printing press already, and then of course the center of trade thing and adjacency. Adjacency as always. On then to manufactories. Manufactories comes around in 1650, and it comes around in a province that is 20 development and also has a manufactory. So if you don't know what manufactories are, you can go check it here. Manufactories are buildings, and they are these buildings down here. So if you have one of these extremely expensive buildings and 20 development, then it might start out with you. So building a lot of these can help you out getting it. Global trade also of course have a bonus, or manufacturers also have a bonus, and it's goods produced 10%, and it spreads to places that have manufactories with a bonus of, let me check it out, 1%. Then it spreads to friendly provinces by 0.35 and non-friendly provinces by 0.05. So again, it's spreading faster if you're friends with your neighbors, and then even faster if you have manufactories. So again, you can get it to spread pretty quickly in your country by yourself here. And then the final one is the Enlightenment. In 1700, this spawns in an area where there is a university in a 20 development. I think it has to be a capital, and that capital has to have a seat in a parliament. So you have to have a parliament, you have to have 20 development, you have to have a monarch with at least 5 in all stats, and then you need to have a university. So a lot of things have to happen at once, but if they all happen at once, then you get the parliament or the Enlightenment. In this case, it started out in London. London, of course, England has kind of a head start because they start out with a parliament, so they don't have to change their government in order to get this. Once you have Enlightenment, you get cheaper culture conversion, and it spreads to you, much like we've already talked about. It spreads from neighboring provinces. In this case, it doesn't really matter if they are friendly though. It also helps if you have the province you are talking about have a seat in parliament that will give 5%. If there's university, it will give 5%. If you have Diplotech 20 and have a natural scientist, it gives 3%. If you have Diplotech 20 and have a philosopher, it gives 1.5%. And then if you have innovative ideas, then the capital will also have 5%. All of those three things were about the capital. So you can basically get Enlightenment faster if you make sure that your capital has or you have Diptech 20 and either a natural scientist, a philosopher, and you have innovative ideas. You can get up to 8% in your capital, as further 5% for university and a further 5% for parliament, for a maximum of 18% in your capital. That's pretty sick. Anyway, that was all of the different institutions and how they spread. One thing I didn't mention at the start is how you actually get it once it's spread to your country, because it's not free. Basically, it will spread to your country slowly. If you go out here to the edges of the world, you can see that the manufacturers are still trying to spread into Kazakh here. And until he has all of his countries, until it's spread into all of his provinces, it won't come on its own. But you can embrace it. You can pay a money value, and that is money in ducats, to have it spread to the rest of your country. That is to embrace it, and that costs a amount of money based on how many provinces you have that are not already embracing it. So the bigger you are, the more expensive it will be, and the longer it will take before you can embrace a institution. You do have to have at least 10% of your provinces have it before you can embrace it. And after that, it's just a matter of how much money you have. So this has been a quick look at institutions, the new technology system for Europa Universalis 4. If you have any questions, please feel free to answer them down in the description or down in the comment section. If you enjoyed this video and it helped you, please press the like button. And if you like videos about Europa Universalis 4, consider subscribing to my channel. I have Let's Play series running all the time. Anyway, hope to see you in further videos, and until then, have a good day.